Childhood is supposed to feel safe, a time where your biggest fear is the dark, or what might be hiding under your bed. But sometimes, those fears don't go away. Sometimes they stay with you for years, even into adulthood. In this video, you'll hear 3 disturbing childhood memory horror stories that people still can't explain to this day. Stories where something in the house didn't behave like it should, a presence appeared and didn't leave, and a simple childhood routine turned into something deeply unsettling. These aren't just nightmares, these are memories. And the worst part about childhood memories is that you don't always understand what's happening at the time. You only realize how wrong it was years later. So as you listen, ask yourself this: what did you see as a kid that you never fully explained? Turn off the lights, put your headphones on, and let's go back to where it all started. I was around 9 years old when all of this started. Back then, I lived with my mom and my little sister in a small, older house at the end of a quiet street. It was the kind of place where nothing really happened. Kids played outside, neighbors waved, and everything felt normal, at least during the day. At night, it felt different. I remember lying in bed one evening, staring up at the glow-in-the-dark stars stuck to my ceiling. I couldn't sleep, which wasn't unusual for me. I used to overthink everything as a kid. The room was dim, just enough light coming in through the window for me to see shapes and shadows moving along the walls. Branches from the tree outside would sway in the wind, casting long, shifting shadows across my room. But then I noticed something strange. One of the shadows wasn't moving. It was low to the ground, near my toy chest in the corner. At first, I assumed it was just a pile of clothes or maybe one of my stuffed animals. I even remember rolling my eyes at myself for getting nervous. But then I blinked, and it was gone. Not moved, not shifted. Gone. A cold feeling spread through my body, like something inside me dropped. I pulled my blanket over my head and forced myself to sleep. The next morning, I forgot about it until I looked over at my toy chest. It was open. That alone might not sound strange, but I never left it open. My mom was strict about that. Toys had to be put away properly, or I'd hear about it. I closed it and didn't say anything. I told myself I must have just forgotten. A few weeks later, my little sister said something that I still remember word for word. She was sitting at the table eating breakfast when she casually said, "I don't like the man in my closet." She said it like she was talking about a toy she didn't want anymore. No fear in her voice, just a statement. My mom laughed it off immediately. "You're imagining things," she told her. But I wasn't laughing, because I knew exactly what she meant. That night, I couldn't fall asleep. I kept thinking about what she said, about the shadow, about the open toy chest, about the feeling that something was wrong. At some point, I must have drifted off, because I woke up to a sound, a slow scraping noise. It sounded like something dragging across the floor, not loud, but close, too close. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. The sound got closer and closer until it stopped right next to my bed, right below me. I knew that if I looked over the edge, I would see something. So I didn't. I stayed frozen, gripping the blanket as tight as I could until I eventually passed out from exhaustion. The next morning I checked the floor, and that's when I saw them. Long scratch marks, deep, fresh, right beside my bed. I ran to show my mom, but instead of being concerned, she got angry. She said I must have dragged something sharp across the floor, or maybe I was messing around and didn't want to admit it. No matter what I said, she didn't believe me. After that, things got worse. At night, I started hearing whispers. Not clear voices, just faint, low sounds, like someone talking through a wall or a radio turned down too low. And it always came from the closet. My sister started waking up crying more often. Every time I went into her room, she'd be pointing toward the same spot, the closet, saying, "He's there." I never saw him, but I felt something. That heavy feeling, like being watched. Like something was in the room with you, just out of sight. The worst night happened during winter. I woke up suddenly and noticed something immediately. My door was open. I always slept with it closed. Always. The hallway light was on, casting a dim glow into my room. I stared at the doorway, trying to make sense of it. Then the hallway light went out. Not flickered, not dimmed. Just off. A second later, I heard footsteps, slow, measured, coming down the hallway. They stopped right outside my door. I tried to scream for my mom. Nothing came out. Then the door creaked open further, and something leaned in. I couldn't see details, just a tall, dark shape. Its head tilted slightly, like it was looking directly at me. I shut my eyes instantly and pretended to be asleep. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Seconds, minutes, maybe longer. When I finally opened my eyes again, the door was closed, and I was alone. The next morning I asked my mom if she had come into my room. She said no. She hadn't gotten up at all. My sister later said she saw the man again, this time standing next to her bed. That was the first time I saw fear on my mom's face. That night she went room to room with a candle, whispering prayers under her breath. For a while, things got quiet, but it didn't last. One afternoon, I came home from school before anyone else. I was sitting in the living room doing homework when I heard a loud slam from down the hall. My toy chest. I froze, then slowly walked toward my room. The door was wide open. When I looked inside, all my toys were scattered across the floor, like someone had dumped everything out in a hurry. No windows open, no one else home. I backed away and waited outside until my mom got back. She blamed the cat. We didn't even have a cat. Years later, after we moved out, I asked her about that house, if she ever experienced anything strange. She hesitated. Then she said yes. She told me that sometimes she would wake up in the middle of the night and see a figure standing in her doorway. She never told us, because she didn't want to scare us. But she said she always felt like it was a man. Even now, as an adult, I still think about that house, about the scratches, the whispers, the figure in the doorway, and sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I still hear it. That same sound, something dragging slowly across the floor. I was about 10 years old when my family moved into a new house. It was supposed to be a fresh start. Bigger place, nicer neighborhood, more space for everyone. My mom had just remarried, and this felt like the beginning of something better. At first, it really did. My room was at the very end of the hallway. 2 large windows overlooking the backyard, and a deep closet that stretched further back than it looked. I remember thinking how cool it was. I even imagined turning it into some kind of secret hideout. But that feeling didn't last long. The first night I slept there, I woke up suddenly. No reason. No noise that I could clearly identify. Just awake. Then I heard it. A soft shuffling sound. It came from the closet. It wasn't loud enough to panic right away. Just subtle movement, like something brushing against hanging clothes. I stared at the door, trying to rationalize it. Just the house settling. That's what people always say. Then the door moved, not fully, just a slight push outward, like something inside had leaned against it, and then stopped. My body locked up. I wanted to run, to scream, to do anything, but I just lay there, staring. Eventually, I must have fallen asleep from exhaustion. The next morning, the closet door was open, just a few inches. I knew I hadn't left it like that. I always closed it tightly. When I told my mom, she brushed it off. Air pressure, she said. Vents can do that. I nodded, but something didn't feel right. That same night, I made sure to shut the closet door again. I even stood there for a second, just staring at it, as if expecting it to move again. It didn't. At least, not while I was awake. A few days later, something new started. Tapping, light at first, barely noticeable. Tap, 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 coming from the window. I thought it was tree branches. That's the logical explanation, right? Except when I checked, there were no branches anywhere near the glass. Still, the tapping continued. Every night, always after I laid down. Always when the room went quiet. Sometimes it would stop the moment I covered my head with the blanket. Like whatever it was, knew I wasn't looking. One night, I forced myself not to hide. I stayed still, watching, waiting, and then I saw it. A hand pressed flat against the outside of the window. It was pale, too pale, not the color of normal skin, more like something drained of life. The fingers were long, unnaturally still. It didn't tap anymore. It just stayed there, watching. Then slowly, it began to slide down the glass, leaving nothing behind. No mark, no sound. And then it was gone. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. The next morning I told my mom again. This time more serious, more desperate. She laughed at first, thought I was joking. But when she saw my face, she changed her tone. She didn't believe me, but she didn't laugh anymore either. My stepdad, on the other hand, brushed it off completely. Said I was making it up, trying to get attention. But I noticed something strange after that. He started leaving lights on, hallway lights, sometimes even the kitchen. Like he didn't want the house to be completely dark anymore. Weeks passed, and then my younger brother started talking about something. He called it the White Lady. He said she came into his room at night, sat on his bed, watched him. My mom dismissed it, said he had an active imagination. But one night, he woke up screaming. I ran into his room. He was shaking, crying, pointing at the doorway. When he finally spoke, he said, "She was right there, just staring at me." He said her eyes were black. That was the moment I knew I wasn't the only one seeing something. After that, I started dreaming about her too. At first, it was just shapes, shadows in corners, things that disappeared when I looked directly at them. But the dreams became clearer, more detailed. She was tall, too tall. Her head nearly touched the ceiling. She wore a long white dress that seemed to move, even when there was no air. Her hair hung down in dark strands, and her face was pale like chalk. Her eyes, completely black. Sometimes I'd wake up and still hear her whispering my name one night. I woke up and she wasn't part of a dream. She was real, standing at the foot of my bed. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. She leaned forward slowly, her head tilting slightly, like she was trying to understand me. I shut my eyes, held them shut as tight as I could. When I opened them again, she was gone, but my closet door was wide open. After that, I refused to go near it. I stopped putting anything inside. I avoided even looking at it when I walked past. I begged my mom to let me sleep in her room. She said I needed to be brave, but I don't think she understood. This wasn't fear of the dark. This was something else. The worst night came during a storm. Heavy rain slammed against the windows. Wind howled outside. Everything in the house creaked and shifted. I woke up to a sound. The window slowly opening. I watched as the latch turned on its own. The window slid upward. Cold air rushed in. And then she appeared, climbing through the window. But not like a person. She floated. Her feet never touched the floor. She drifted toward me, slow, silent, until her face was inches away from mine. I could feel her breath, cold, empty. She whispered my name again. And that's when I screamed. My mom and stepdad rushed in, turned on the lights. Everything was normal. Window closed, locked, nothing there. They said it was a nightmare, a night terror, but I know what I saw. The strangest part is that I don't remember everything. There's a gap between seeing her and screaming, like something happened in between, and my mind just erased it. We lived in that house for 3 more years. My brother stopped talking about the White Lady, but I don't think she stopped coming. Sometimes late at night, I'd hear him whispering, "Please go away." Even now, years later, whenever there's a storm, I get that same feeling, like something is just outside the window, watching, waiting, and sometimes, if I look too long into the glass, I swear I can almost see a pale hand slowly pressing against it again. I was 8 years old when this happened. Back then, my whole world was my bike. Every day after school, I'd ride up and down our street for hours. It was a quiet neighborhood, small houses, big trees, and sidewalks I knew like the back of my hand. I knew every crack in the pavement, every mailbox, every driveway. There was one house, though, that always stood out to me. It was near the corner of the block. A long driveway, wide yard, nothing really unusual about it at first glance. Except for the man. He would stand there almost every afternoon, right at the edge of the driveway where it met the sidewalk, wearing a hat, hands relaxed at his sides, just watching the street. The first time I rode by, he waved. I waved back. After that, it became routine. Every day I passed by, he'd say something. "Hey there. How's your day? Nice weather, huh?" Simple stuff. Normal. He never stepped off his driveway, never came closer, never tried to stop me, and I never crossed the street. My mom had one rule I followed no matter what. Don't cross the road alone. So we talked from a distance. Me on the sidewalk, him in his driveway. At first it felt harmless, friendly even, but after a while, I started noticing things. He knew stuff about me. Small things. Things I didn't remember telling him. Like the fact that I had a little brother, or that my dad had just gotten a new car. I figured maybe he just saw us around, watched the neighborhood. That's what I told myself. One day I got a new bike, bright red, shiny bell. I was proud of it. When I rode past his house, he immediately called out, "Nice bike." I smiled, rang the bell for him. He laughed and said, "You want to race to the corner?" I shook my head. My mom would be mad. He smiled again. "Maybe another time." That stuck with me, the way he said it, like he meant it. We kept talking like that for weeks. Short conversations, always from a distance. Then one day, he wasn't there. I rode past the house, empty driveway, curtains closed, no sign of him. I slowed down, looked longer than usual, but nothing. I told myself he was probably just inside, or busy. Days passed, still no sign of him. Then one afternoon, I saw someone else at that house, a woman. She was in the backyard, watering plants. I had never seen her before. I stopped my bike down the street and watched, not in a creepy way, just curious. I thought about calling out to her, asking where the man was, but I didn't. A few days later, I saw her again. This time on the back porch, something in me decided I needed to know. I looked around, made sure no one was watching. And for the first time, I crossed the street. My heart was pounding the whole time. I walked my bike up the driveway slowly. It felt wrong, like I wasn't supposed to be there. She noticed me, came over and opened the gate. "Can I help you?" she asked. I told her about the man, the one who stood in the driveway, the one who talked to me every day. I expected her to smile, to say something like, "Oh, that's my husband," or "He's inside, I'll get him." But she didn't smile. Her face changed. She said the man I described sounded like her husband. Then she said something that made my chest feel empty. "He passed away last year." I didn't understand. Not fully. I asked if she had a picture. She hesitated, then went inside. When she came back, she handed me a photo. It was him. Same hat, same smile, same posture. I felt a strange mix of relief and confusion. Then I noticed something. A scar. A thin, pale scar across his cheek, from his ear down toward his mouth. I stared at it. Because the man I talked to didn't have that scar. His face had been smooth, normal. I told her that. She shook her head, said the scar had been there for years. I didn't argue, I just nodded. But something didn't make sense. She told me no one else lived in the house. No one had been standing in that driveway. Not recently. Not ever. I backed away slowly, got on my bike, and rode home. The ride felt different, quiet, heavy. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about him. The way he said my name. The way he smiled. The way he knew things. The next day I rode past the house again. No one there. I waved anyway. No one waved back. Weeks passed. I avoided that street. Took different routes. Found new places to ride. Eventually, I stopped thinking about it as much. Until one night, I woke up to a sound. Someone calling my name. Soft. Familiar. Coming from outside my window. My heart started racing because I recognized the voice. It was him. The same calm tone. The same way he used to say my name from across the street. I sat up in bed, frozen. He said my name again. I shouted for my mom, pulled the covers over my head. She came in quickly, turned on the light. I told her everything. She checked the window, looked outside. Nothing. just rain and darkness. She told me it was a dream, but I knew it wasn't. The next morning, my throat hurt from yelling. My parents checked all the locks. Everything was secure, no signs of anyone outside. Life went on. Years passed. We moved. The street changed. But that memory never left. A few years ago, I drove back through that neighborhood just to see it again. The house was still there. New paint, different cars, but the driveway was empty. I slowed down, thought about stopping, about asking if anyone had ever seen a man standing there. But I didn't. I just kept driving. Sometimes I still think about it. About the man in the driveway and the voice in the rain. Because the scariest part isn't what happened. It's the question that never got answered. If that wasn't her husband, then who was I talking to all those afternoons? Childhood is where memories are made, but not all of them are meant to be remembered. Some stay buried for years, quiet, waiting, until one day, something reminds you, a sound, a place, a feeling you can't explain, and suddenly, you're right back there again. The shadow in the corner, the hand at the window, the voice calling your name when no one's there. Maybe it was imagination, maybe it was just fear, or maybe it was something real, something you weren't supposed to understand yet. If you made it this far, then you've just heard 3 disturbing childhood memories that never fully went away. So now I'll ask you one thing. What's something you experienced as a kid that you still can't explain today? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one, and if you enjoy these kinds of stories, make sure to subscribe. There's a lot more coming. Turn the lights back on, take a breath, and remember, not everything from your childhood was imaginary.